Hi there. I want to take a few minutes to show you the latest and greatest on how OutboundSync works. Now, OutboundSync is a custom app that integrates between Smartlead and HubSpot. And the companies that are using this app are using multi-domain and multi-account outreach strategies through a tool like a Smartlead, which is a sales engagement platform, similar to SalesLoft and Outreach and others. And the flowchart here, you can see a little bit how this works. And I'm going to show you some very specific examples in HubSpot and in Smartlead to give you a better sense of how this works. But the idea is that it's a parallel platform that's pulling data from HubSpot as well as sending data to HubSpot, with HubSpot being the system of record for your sales team. And OutboundSync facilitating that cold outbound engine or outreach tool that's going to be generating those net new opportunities for your SDRs and your BDRs. Let's just jump into some really specific examples here to give you a better sense of how it works. And let me just zoom out, change tabs, and move myself out of the way. So we're starting in the HubSpot portal. This is a test developer account. And we're going to connect to OutboundSync. It just uses HubSpot OAuth. So if you have HubSpot accounts and you have two-factor authentication, you've got all that security set up through HubSpot, you can continue to use that. The goal is that it's a very thin layer that sits between the two platforms. Once we're OAuth into our test developer account, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a webhook. In this case, we've got our fictional company and our fictional user, Ilara Sunweave. And you decide what data do you want to send from Smartlead over to HubSpot. And there's actually no direct API connection between Smartlead and HubSpot. OutboundSync sits in the middle using that HubSpot OAuth security layer for access to the data. And the webhook is just going to send to OutboundSync, which is then going to process the webhook and then relay that into HubSpot through API calls. You can create a task by default for every single reply that you get, which I think is a really nice trailing sort of accountability thing. But we can disable that, and I'm going to show you why in a little bit, because we can actually customize how we notify the sales reps when they get their replies. I am going to leave create or update company checked off here, but I just want to note that we have users that are using Salesforce that do not want that. They are actually using Salesforce where they create and maintain company records and they push from Salesforce to HubSpot. So you can disable that if you want. So we create our webhook, we can send a test, we have the details on how it works, and I'm going to copy that webhook URL. And where that's going to go is that's going to go into Smartlead. In Smartlead, you can select what webhook events you want to be delivered to OutboundSync. It could be every sent email. It could be only replies. We also support and are in the process of significantly increasing our support for interested-only replies. But of course, you may want all replies because every reply does contain information. It could be an out of office with the new contact information. It could also be an opt-out request. And you want to make sure perhaps that you handle every opt-out. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a really comprehensive way. We'll talk about that in a second. But you basically set the webhook in Smartlead. You set the parameters, and then you drop that URL from OutboundSync into Smartlead. And I'm not going to pull it up here because this is just a test account, but you copy paste it in, turn it on, and you attach that webhook to your future campaigns in Smartlead. And now you can get a sense of what's going to be flowing through into HubSpot now that you've got them connected. This is a contact record. And in the middle column here, you have this activity feed. You have the timeline events that include all the information about the reply or the click or the maybe change in interest or the sent email. So the reps have context. And then you also have the email logged here as well. And this has custom headers so your reps can reply directly to their new leads inside of HubSpot. They can also update the lifecycle stage and the lead status so that your pipeline reports are going to be really current. They're going to reflect not only what's happening from your inbound activity, but also outbound with attribution to outbound built in because of the fact that you're handling this in HubSpot. You can build lists to show all of your replies inside of HubSpot using filters, and I'm going to show you how that works in a second. But you can also opt out. So it's not just interested folks, but you can use the opt-out action in HubSpot, and you can build lists of folks who are not interested in your campaigns. These opt-out lists can be converted into block lists in Smartlead. And I will just jump over to OutboundSync to show you how that works. Basically, you select the list that you've got. In this case, a do not contact. You connect it to Smartlead through the API key. And then you select if you want it to be every email address or the entire domain. Now, a use case for every domain would be customers. You don't want to cold email any current customers, no matter what. You never want them to be reached through Smartlead. You can use a domain-based block list to make sure that doesn't happen. And if you're an agency, you can also use the Smartlead client selection to make sure that your client is chosen and it only applies to a specific client rather than to an entire Smartlead account. The last thing I just want to talk about is how we can use filters in Outbound Sync, because this is going to drive lists, reporting, workflows, and a whole lot more. So if you go to, this is for an example list, and you go down to integration filters, you can see that every single one of these Outbound Sync properties is listed as things that you can filter and run specific searches for. You can look for when they replied. You can look at what was included in the subject line, what was included in the body of the email. You could look at who sent the email. These filters are going to be what come into play when you want to maybe route those notifications from your replies into HubSpot workflows. You can determine which rep gets those notifications. You can also determine how you want to notify them. It could be through Slack. It could be through Slack and a task. If you're on HubSpot Sales Hub Enterprise, you could also auto-enroll those replies into sequences and go omnichannel with LinkedIn, with phone, and using HubSpot as that single sort of orchestration platform, but with Smartlead to initiate the campaigns via cold email. And then once you get those campaigns running via cold email, you pull it into HubSpot, and that's where you go across to other channels. But there are a lot of additional workflows that you can build out and a lot of reports that you can build out based on these timeline event properties. So this is an overview of how the product works. Please let us know what questions you have. And if you're interested in learning more, if you go to introcrm.com/outboundsync, you can learn more about how the product works. We're really excited about the possibilities of bringing this type of scaled multi-domain outreach to the HubSpot ecosystem. And we're seeing some companies get incredible results. So we're looking forward to continue to build this out and get ideas from customers, potentially customers like you, to help us make it better. Thanks for your interest, and thanks for watching.